This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Today on CityCast Philly, it's the Friday News Roundup. We're talking about a financial watchdog calling to end the sheriff's office and the Register of Wills, 3 elderly retired Philly cops on trial for perjury, plus President Trump is scheduled to be in town this weekend, and we say farewell to an Eagles legend who's calling it quits. It's Friday, March 21st. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining me this week at the Fiddler Club is CityCast Philly executive producer Matt Katz. Hey, Matt.
What's up, Trenae?
Hey, and joining us is Siani Colon. Hey, Philly newsletter editor. Hey, Siani.
Morning, guys.
All right, let's get right into the news. There is a call to abolish the sheriff's office and the Register of Wills. Have y'all ever seen something like this before?
No, I mean, getting rid of a government agency. It's like a kind of Muskian.
Such a new concept.
Right.
But this is a little bit different.
Yes. So tell us what's going on.
Where do we even begin with this? So the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority, they passed a resolution on Tuesday to recommend Mayor Parker and City Council abolish the Sheriff's Office and Register of Wills. So they don't really have the actual authority to abolish an office. This is purely symbolic, but a really strong recommendation as they can approve the mayor's 5-year budget plan. And they don't see these offices being part of that plan as independent offices.
All right. So without this office, potentially, what types of things are we taking away?
Well, this is definitely keeping in mind that it won't be taken away as a whole. The idea is to fold it into the court system. I think this will allow for more oversight in these offices because of the issues of leadership. But to get a sense of what they do, the sheriff's office, their job is, providing protection in the courts for witnesses, judges, defendants, the jury, and they're also enforcing court orders and also managing the sheriff's sale. So when we hear about the land bank and the different sales on lots that are happening, that's through the sheriff's office, or at least that's what's supposed to happen. Then the Register of Wills, pretty much in a name, they're keeping the record of wills, probating wills, and issuing marriage licenses. So these are the things that they're supposed to be doing, but they haven't been doing a great job.
So what do you mean by they haven't been doing a great job?
So I'll start with the Register of Wills, since their list of controversies is slightly shorter than the sheriff's office. Mostly the issue of wrongful termination lawsuits that have been happening. Previously, under the former Register of Wills, Tracy Gordon, there were workers who claimed they faced retaliation for not supporting her most recent campaign, which she lost to John Sabatina. And he's also facing wrongful termination lawsuits with 10 former employees saying that they were fired to make way for his own supporters. So the city's already paid out $400,000 to settle these lawsuits. And I believe that's not the end of it as well.
This sounds so messy. Break down what is going on in the sheriff's office.
Oh.
Well, we got a whole list for you. The most recent issues that are happening is that there hasn't been any court security.
Yeah, we've talked about that before on the show, yeah.
Yeah, so the issue with court security is that the sheriff's office and the adult probation and parole department, they were sharing their space. And the security was being done by deputies that were doing double duty, essentially. But once the sheriff's office moved to the family court to help with shortages there, you're kind of like shuffling one problem to another. And then you didn't have enough deputies available for these probation hearings. So they had to go virtual. They had to put a pause on drug testing because of the lack of security. And security is a big deal. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, last year's incidents were occurring at a rate of 6 every month. So these would have been some form of violence and vandalism that were occurring at the courts. And without the extra security, there was a temporary closure of the probation office because there just wasn't enough security for the whole space.
This is like a long-standing problem. The Committee of 70 came out with a report that was titled 40 Years of Corruption, Mismanagement, and Scandal in the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. And it's only seemed to get worse under the current sheriff, Rochelle Bilal. She was elected in 2019, and it's the problems are court security, prison transport, misusing funds, and the administration of sheriff cells. The Committee of 70, the nonprofit good government group that came out with this report, they cited $40 million in uncollected taxes because Sheriff Bilal had failed to hold auctions of tax delinquent properties.
I think people interested in starting community gardens and such on these properties and trying to go about it the legal way, but the process is being slowed down through the sheriff's office.
I mean, she was elected.
Twice.
Right. And she was reelected in 2023. So what does that tell us?
I mean, do you think voters understood both the functions of the sheriff's office and knew whether or not the sheriff's office was...
Probably not.
Right. But I think if you were to get rid of this office, I don't think she would go away immediately. I mean, I think she'd have to be allowed to serve out the remainder of her term. I imagine this would be a long this process would take a bit of time, right?
Yeah, especially since this is just they're just calling on the mayor and city council when it comes to this resolution. They still don't have the power to dismantle this office. So it's really up to our local government to decide what they're going to do with it.
And we haven't really heard from them yet, right? The mayor and the council haven't really chimed in any real way on whether or not they agree that the sheriff's office should go away?
So Mayor Parker didn't say anything, but City Council President Kenyatta Johnson said he'd review the board's recommendations, but didn't promise any immediate plans. But of course, Sheriff Bilal disagrees with the resolution and denies everything, saying the information is outdated and inaccurate.
We've got more news after the break. Matt, you've been looking into this story about 3 elderly retired Philly cops who are going on trial for perjury.
Yeah, this is a really interesting case. These cops are in their 70s and 80s, long retired, but I think it's an important case. The trial started this week. I've been following it. The background is this. 1991, in Nicetown, a 77-year-old woman named Louise Talley was raped and fatally stabbed. The perpetrator stole her TVs and some change from her purse on the way out of the house. She was apparently beloved in the community. She had pictures of JFK and MLK in her house. This was a really tragic story on so many levels. And her 20-year-old neighbor at the time, Anthony Wright, was arrested and convicted for the crimes. He ended up spending more than 2 decades in prison. A DNA test, though, ultimately proved that he could not have committed the crime. His DNA did not match the evidence at the scene, so his conviction was thrown out. But then the district attorney at the time, this is about 10 years ago, Seth Williams, decided to retry Wright, even though the DNA had apparently exonerated him. So that goes to trial. There's a retrial, and he's exonerated again. He is free to leave prison, and he ultimately wins a $10 million settlement from the city for what he experienced. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to 2021, Larry Krasner is the district attorney, and he has the 3 detectives on the case arrested for lying under oath in that second trial for perjury. And their trial for the perjury charges is what began this past week. It should continue into next week. Two of the detectives are accused of lying about the confession that the exonerated man gave at the time. He said he was coerced, he was crying, he was handcuffed, he wanted to see his mom, and he signed this false confession. The third cop is accused of lying about finding the victim's clothes in Wright's bedroom. So to me, this case is really compelling because the backdrop is Larry Krasner is running for re-election in large part on his record of seeking to exonerate the wrongfully convicted and purge bad cops from our system. But this is certainly a step further than what we've seen before to like go after retired cops, elderly cops, senior citizens on a case that's already been settled. And really justice has in large part been served if you look at it in the way in which the man Wright was freed from prison. But Krasner certainly is sending a signal to the police department here, like the era of cops coercing confessions, lying about evidence that was seized is over. So the first couple of days of the trial have happened. Wright himself was on the stand for 3 hours and had to face just an endless stream of aggressive questioning from the cop's defense attorney. And he obviously insisted his account is the same and he's been consistent in what he said. But according to the Inquirer reporting at the trial, he was visibly frustrated by just being on the stand and going through this again. I mean, this man has been in and out of court on this same situation.
Ever since he's been out.
Yeah.
Just re-traumatized.
I had a chance to meet with Anthony Wright some years ago.
Oh, no kidding.
That was like one of my first stories that I produced as a producer back at WHYY's Radio Times, which was a daily live talk radio show. And the conversation was just about how in Pennsylvania there is no compensation for exonerees. Some states do not offer that. So to hear that
he got the compensation because
he did get the compensation with the city.
Yeah, with the city, right? Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But not all exonerees do get compensation.
Yeah.
And so to hear also that since he's been out, he's had to continue this trauma of being attached to this case in some way is really heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it was Krasner who's brought this back up again. But yeah,
but
he
rightfully
still had
so,
to
I feel like,
relive it all for sure.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. Are you holding back on foreign travel plans this year because you're afraid of the language gap? I'm not, because I have Babbel. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I'm learning Spanish on Babbel, getting ready for a trip to Mexico City. Babbel is the language learning app that gets you talking. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or at whatever pace you choose. Babbel's tips and tools are inspired by the real-life stuff you actually need when communicating. With a focus on conversation, you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. Babbel has given me great lessons on getting directions, ordering in a restaurant, and making plans. And of all the things I'm doing in Mexico City, I'm probably most excited about the soccer game we're going to. So I was excited to learn how to cheer from Babbel. That'll be me you'll hear yelling, "Fuerza Tigres! Fuerza Tigres!" With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting our listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
All right. I got a couple more stories I want to sneak into this Friday News Roundup. Last weekend, the staff and faculty union members at the Community College of Philadelphia voted to authorize a strike. The union is the American Federation of Teachers Local 2026, and they are demanding better pay. They want to see child care services available back on campus because it had ended during like the COVID-19 pandemic. They want the school to hire more counselors and subsidize transit passes for students and staff. This union represents 1,200 members who are faculty and staff, full-time, part-time. And according to Chalkbeat Philadelphia, this is the city's largest institution for public higher education.
Community colleges like this one have been able to educate people who come from families where there's no history of higher education. So, we want to see these institutions as supported as much as possible with the resources that they need.
Especially during these times where we see a lot of education institutions fearing being able to sustain themselves when it comes to funding cuts and such. So to still make education accessible, especially at this level, is important during these times.
Yeah, and Chalkbeat also reports that not only are the union members possibly going to be impacted, but so will nearly 1,000 high school students here in Philadelphia because they're a part of this dual enrollment program. So just think about the high school seniors who are about to graduate in like a few weeks, really.
Yeah, and they're planning to go to CCP, right? I mean, that's their path. They don't have other options, I imagine, at the time at this late stage.
So here's what I've heard and seen from city leadership on this issue. Mayor Parker included $15 million over the next 5 years for CCP to support its workforce. That was a part of her budget proposal. And council member at large Kendra Brooks, who we just spoke with a few weeks ago, she went to CCP, and her daughter is now a part of that high school dual enrollment program. And Brooks had this to say. She was quoted by Chalkbeat. "We have to rectify the strike situation so we don't interrupt learning for our students," which, is big. So there's no set date on when this strike could happen, if it happens, but stay connected with our friend Carly Citron. She's the bureau chief for Chalkbeat Philadelphia. She's been covering this. So I'm sure there's going to be updates on these ongoing contract negotiations. All right. I saw this story. Someone posted this on social media, and I was like, no freaking way. 3 women are going to get $17.5 million in a settlement by 3 hotels in Northeast Philly. These are those like hotels up the boulevard.
Yeah.
Motel 6, Days Inn, and North American Motor Inn. The attorneys for the women say that they were sex trafficked when they were minors and that those hotels didn't do much to protect them. They didn't have enough security. And the women were experiencing this between May 2015 through January 2017. I've never seen something like this before where hotels are
held responsible
for these types of crimes and this like sleazy activity that happens in and around their businesses.
Yeah. And, they're the eyes and ears there. I mean, hotel employees should be trained to look out for some of the signs of this and report it to the authorities.
And that's what kind of came out of this particular case. The attorney said that if the hotel staff had been properly trained to report criminal activity, enforce rules to deter bad actors, and hire adequate security to notify police, maybe these things wouldn't have happened to these women when they were minors.
Exactly. It's a failure on multiple levels as is, but when children are involved, that is a whole other layer. And it goes to show there was a reason why these perpetrators felt comfortable enough to enact this in this environment. So there has to be a change to make sure that they don't feel comfortable enough to even do this to begin with. So there has to be a culture change and rule change in these hotels, especially when, again, children are involved.
We've got more news after this break.
Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
This city is built on hard work, resilience, and unmatched passion. And you bring the same energy to every game, every moment, every season. Your loyalty, your fire, and your unwavering support mean everything to me and this organization. Philly doesn't just support its team, it lives for them. And I see it, and I feel it, and I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for being the heartbeat of this city. Philadelphia, and everybody, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank y'all. EAGLES, Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. My last one. BG out, baby.
BG out, baby.
BG out. What an end to an era. He's been here for 15 seasons.
Amazing.
He announced his retirement this week. You know, obviously, he was super emotional. The kids and I actually had a chance to meet him some years ago at this Eagles block party on Fairmount Avenue. And he just greeted us with the biggest smile. It was like he knew us already, even though this was our first time meeting him. So, Brandon Graham, thank you so much from this one fan. Thank you for everything.
He played in more than 200 games, the only 200-game player in Eagles history. And he wasn't kicking the ball either.
No.
He was getting hit and hitting and strip sacking Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Heck yeah. Anyway, while we say goodbye to Brandon Graham, I'm sure he's going to be, still around in the city, doing great things. But Jalen Hurts, he's been promoting Love Hurts in his foundation. A.J. Brown is swimming at Drexel University's pool during the offseason. And veteran Eagle Lane Johnson signed the dotted line and is playing for another season. He said on his IG post, "Here for a good time and a long time."
Nice.
Holding it down.
Right? All right, weekend plans. The president's going to be in town.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's just the only thing I think about when I hear that is well, how's that going to screw up the traffic situation?
True.
Am I going to be trying to get somewhere? And
be on the complete opposite end of the city.
Yeah.
So he's going to be in town for the NCAA Division I Wrestling Championship this weekend. It actually started yesterday on Thursday. It goes till Saturday. 3 nights of wrestling, broadcasted on every platform on the ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN Plus. He's in town. This is his first time being in town since he was on the campaign trail.
I mean, it will be interesting. I'll say this. Will he be protested? Will there be protests? Because he has not really faced any protests despite having probably the most controversial first 2 months of a presidential administration in modern American history. So, will the pro-Palestinian protesters who have been on our college campuses for the last year and a half, will they be out in force? Will there be protesters for any number of other causes? Federal workers.
Siani, what are you doing this weekend?
Well, speaking of wrestling, Labor of Love's Wrestle Cup 3 is taking place. This is an all-inclusive wrestling promotion based in Philly. So I'll be seeing moonsaults, pile drivers, maybe, hopefully, seeing someone get slammed through a door again, because that's how I started off the year, watching people get slammed through doors. And they'll be
Sounds like a good weekend.
And it'll all be for a good cause because proceeds are going towards the Old Pine Community Center. So whether you're into wrestling or not, it's definitely a great time to get energized and meet new people.
Matt, what are you doing?
Going to a fundraiser for my kids' school. It's over at the Armory in Center City. It is the biggest party of the year for our neighborhood. And we raise about $100,000 at this party every year for Marian Anderson Neighborhood Academy, our local neighborhood public school. We try to supplement where public funding falls short. So that means art and an amazing STEM program and all kinds of other resources that the teachers need in the classroom. And it's a great party and usually goes quite late. Very fun. So that's what I'm doing.
I'll be making an appearance at the Women of PABJ, which stands for the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. They're having their annual Women's History Month brunch. They're honoring some amazing women in journalism here in the city, like Shawnette Wilson of Fox 29, Erin Coleman of NBC Philadelphia, and Tamara Russell, who's also known as POC, Proof of Consciousness, at Revive Radio. And I got some dinner plans at Havana along the Parkway. Not telling you when I'm going, but I'm going. And I'm just really excited to enjoy walks outside again because it's spring.
Yes. I took a long walk outside yesterday. It is perfect walking outside weather.
Let's take a long walk. Matt, Siani, thank you for talking with me on this Friday News Roundup.
Have a relaxing weekend, guys.
Take care.
No, Siani's going to throw somebody through a door.
Oh. Okay, so
You'll relax after you get thrown through the door. It's okay. You'll be tired enough so that it will be easier to nap.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Our executive producer is Matt Katz. Our producers are Abby Fritz and Selena Say Reynolds. Our Hey Philly newsletter editor is Siani Colon, and our host is me, Trenae Nuri. Music is by Philly's own Interminable, with additional music from All the Kimonos. If you enjoyed this week of episodes, please tell your neighbors. Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Philly. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend and be safe, y'all. Bye.